Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse Chains. It's time for another game review. All right, I got a good one for you today. This one is Magnus Carlsen versus Vidit. And here we go. Magnus is going to make some blunders, and he's going to be losing this game. That being said, he had a totally winning position, and he even misses a forced checkmate in 3. You guys ready? Here we go. We start with B3, the Nimzo Larsen. A very active opening, even played by Nakamura, and a lot of top players over here. Basically, just playing the black side, the Nimzo Indian, as white. And well, the square that we're going to be trying to control here is the E5 square. Here we go. So B3, D5, Bishop B2, already getting one piece to control E5. Pawn C5 here, taking the center with the pawns, because why not? Pawn to E3, a nice move here. The idea is not to only just bring out a pawn, it's about bringing out the bishop to pin the knight. But the knight's not there yet. Well, any player here would most likely play knight c6. This would be very bad because now bishop b5 can get played. And why is this knight so important? Because it controls on e5. With that being said, Vidit's much smarter than that. a6 gets played, stopping bishop to b5. Knight f3, another piece on e5. What do you know? Here we go, knight c6 now gets played. Pawn to d4 saying, you know what, I'm just going to control this square, don't worry about it. There's no more e5 ideas to be played right now. Knight f6, pawn takes on c5. Interesting move. Here the idea is to actually open up the bishop here. What's that mean? Well, here we can either try to control it with the pawn or the bishop. So Magnus is playing far more active in giving up his center and allowing this to be played. Okay, pawn e6. Pawn to a3. Here b4 is the idea to hold on to the extra pawn. Vidit says, no thank you, I'm going to take right now. b4, bishop to a7, knight b to d2, continuing with good development here. Castles and c4. Just like if you're playing the black side for the Nimzo Indian, against d4 you would try to play c5 as fast as possible. We're playing the Nimzo Larsen as white here, so here we're trying to get c4 against d5 as soon as possible, and Magnus gets that in. D takes on c4, knight takes on c4. Here pawn to b5 gets played. I can hear someone saying, hey, can't we just trade off queens here? You're more than welcome to trade off queens, Magnus says, because after queen takes, rook takes. Well, here, this is a very active endgame here for Magnus. And here the d7 square is a bit weak here too. So this actually will increase chances of getting a winning position. Of course, Vidit doesn't want that, so he plays pawn b5. He says, if you want to trade and give my rook the free tempo, you're more than welcome to. Of course, Magnus won't do that either. Instead, he plays his knight to the beautiful square of d6. I don't think it's hard to say this is definitely the best piece on the board right now. With that being said, Vidit goes into it and starts trying to kick this knight out of its great outpost. Bishop d7, bishop to d3, queen to e7, and Magnus castles. Did Magnus just blunder his knight? Black to move. Is this a free knight? Of course not. Magnus would not make such an easy mistake here. If queen takes on d6, what do you play? Simple chess. Bishop takes on h7 check, here for a discovery, and you're going to be losing your queen. Of course, Vidit's not going to go out like that. Here he plays instead knight to d5. Now queen takes d6 is actually a threat because now the knight is blocking and bishop takes h7 won't work anymore. Okay, well it's time to vacate this knight. Knight goes to e4, looking at some good squares. We have the g5 square over here or c5, depending on which way Magnus wants to go. Going king side or maybe a positional game going queen side. Black went ahead, played rook fd8, rook ac1, bishop to e8, and now you see that the rook is opposite of the queen. And well, when that happens, look out for tactics. Here a nice move, queen to e2, just jumping out the way. Pawn to h6, rook f to d1, rook ac8, and the opening is now officially over. All the pieces have been developed. And what do you think about this position? Is it about even? Is white better? Is black better? At this point, Magnus does hold a small advantage. And the only reason why is just because it's piece activity. If you look at the pawns, well, everything is pretty much the same here, so you can't get any advantage off that. It's an equal game. So here Magnus is definitely looking to try and win with his development advantage. He has more pieces out. He needs to create a plan very fast. With that being said, Vidit's still trying to get to equality, so he's going to try to make some trades here. And well, Magnus is going to play for the advantage. He's going to go for a kingside attack because look at these pieces. They're all aimed the right way over here. You got the knights out. The queen will be joining. Let's see how Magnus does it. Pawn h3. No more back rank checkmates anymore. Bishop b6. Knight to g3. Knight to f6. Bishop b1. The start of a good plan here. Looking to put the queen in front of the bishop and then look about queen h7 ideas. And you'll see how later on we're going to try and kick this knight away because that's the penetration square, so we need to get rid of its main defender. Rook takes d1. Of course, Vidit's going to make some trades here. Rook takes. Rook d8. Can we please trade? No. Of course not. Magnus is playing for that full point, so he says no thank you and plays rook to c1. King to f8, a nice prophylactic move. He knows that h7 is coming, so he goes ahead and jumps out the way. Knight e4 here. Remember, this is the main defender, so Magnus is trying to remove it by just making a simple trade here. Knight d5 gets played. Here, this knight's so important, he doesn't want to trade it off. Knight c3, can we trade? No. All right, queen c2. Here comes the heavy gun. The queen's looking to go to h7 now. Again, knight e4 ideas. Rook c8 gets played. Knight back to e4. Can we please trade these knights off? You might be asking yourself, hey, isn't there some discoveries here? Unfortunately, there's no good ones because the rook is unprotected. The best one you can do is something like knight to a7, in which case Magnus would just play something like knight c5. And, well, bishop takes f6 ideas, queen h7. They're still up in the air, and he has this very nicely placed knight here. With that being said, back to the game, knight e4. Knight d5, I don't want to trade off. Of course, Vidit's looking for draws. Everything about in this game, he's looking for a draw. He's just trying to make trades and not allowing his pieces to be traded, so he's just moving back and forth, hoping for a threefold repetition. And here Magnus plays knight c5, no draw. And here bishop takes on c5, and this is it. Magnus misses mate in 3. Can you find the move that Magnus missed here? All right, well, I won't say move, I'll say the combination. Here it's white to move in. So what do you play here? Here you have the beautiful bishop takes on g7 check, and there's no way to stop the checkmate. If king to g8, well, queen to h7 check, and mate is getting played. So you have to take this bishop. King takes, and again, the queen penetrates. Queen h7 check, and here it doesn't matter. King f8, king f6, it's all over. King f8, queen h8's mate. If the king goes to f6, queen h6 is checkmate. So here, oof, this is definitely a blow to Magnus. I'm sure he might have saw it afterwards, or maybe he found out after the game. I have to take a look at the press release afterwards. So here instead, after bishop takes on c5, Magnus plays queen to h7. Now this is still a very good position here for Magnus at plus 2.5. With that being said, Vidit is now able to defend and plays pawn to f6, covering this g7 square. And this is a very good move because it's going to cut off this dark square bishop from helping with the attack. With that being said, every time you make a move, a new weakness is there. What's the new weakness? Here is the light squares. And here, well, Magnus goes ahead and plays queen h8 check, king f7, rook takes on c5 here, and, well, queen b7 got played, and here we see a win that, again, Magnus misses. And I don't blame him. This is a blitz game after all. There's lots of different things going on. Here he went ahead and played the second best move of e4. Here he missed the beautiful bishop to g6 check idea, which, again, this is like a computer idea, too. It's definitely something he probably looked at, but he just, didn't believe in. At this point, well, you're pretty much forced to go ahead and take the bishop. If you do try to run away, queen takes g7 is not a hard move to find, with just winning, and the king is obviously just running. So here the king must take, and here's the idea, queen to g8. Now the king cannot run backwards over here, and, well, white's pieces are actually perfectly placed to go ahead and win. It's a +7 advantage here. A sample line is something like queen e7, knight h4 check, king to h5, queen h7, trying to get the queen back over here, pawn to g6, and now a beautiful little checkmate in 2, check, mate. Oof. So again, Magnus missed this little mate right here, but that's okay. Pawn e4, continuing the attack. Knight to f4, and again, another nice idea. Here, this time, it was bishop takes on f6. Oh my gosh, so many sacrifices, and I'm sure Magnus felt this position, that he knew it was winning, but just couldn't find that final stroke. Well, what happens if pawn takes? Queen h7 check, and oh no, my queen over here. If you go ahead and play king takes, another beautiful combination that is really hard to find. Queen f8 check, bishop f7, and here, e5 check. Here you have to take because, well, the king can't move anywhere else. And after knight takes, queen takes on c8, winning the exchange. Oof, after all these beautiful sacrifices, Magnus unfortunately chooses the wrong one. Here, queen h7 got played, knight to e7, the game is now equal, and now Magnus tries knight to e5 check, and he must have missed the defense here because, well, he at this point, now Vidit is in the driving seat. Well, Vidit says, if I don't take, I'm just losing, so he takes. Bishop takes, and this was the idea. Here the idea is to attack the knight and also attack on g7 here. Unfortunately, Vidit has knight to h5, and it is now game over. Here the knight is just defending on g7, and there's nothing good to do. Here Magnus tries to kick the knight, but now the knight can just jump back to f6. Here rook takes c5, in between move, in Jermazoa. It even helps attack the bishop over here, so there's no time to look about taking the knight. If pawn takes, the rook simply takes back, and there's no more attack on g7. So here a nice little in-between move. Rook takes on c5, pawn takes on c5, and now the knight just jumps back. Here this is just a lost position, and Vidit does a very good job converting this to a full win. Bishop takes, king takes, pawn to g5 check. Here I would be very much sweating, saying, do I take this, do I take this? Here you must take, e5 check. Here, do not take this pawn. This one is a trap. The king runs back to f7. If you do take on e5, queen takes g7 check, and the game is about equal here, funny enough, even though you are up an extra piece. Vidit does not fall for it. King to f7, queen h5 check, king back, queen takes on g5, queen to f3. You have to be careful. This queen can be very devastating here with queen to d1 check, your undefended bishop over here. Queen g4, best chance just to trade down for an endgame. Bishop c6, queen takes, bishop takes, king h2, knight c6, king over to f2, bishop d5. Of course, not knight takes on e5 as after king f4. Well, now we see that this knight's attack and this bishop is being defended by it, so it would just be lost. So bishop back to d5, taking the time. f4, king e7. I mean, at this level, it's a very easy endgame. Again, this was a blitz game, so it's not crazy that you should play it out. King f2, knight a5, h4, knight c4, bishop d3, knight takes. Now we have the two outside passed pawns here. King e3, a5, king d4, bishop c6, h5, b4. Passed pawns must be pushed. Here they go. f5, pawn takes, bishop takes. Here it's very hard to get these pawns pushing because, well, we can't get control because we only got the one piece and there's two over here. a4 got played, e6, b3, king over to c3, knight b5 check, king b4, and here the final stroke, knight to d4. At this point, well, Magnus just goes ahead and resigns. What did you guys think of this game? I definitely think Magnus is the GOAT. I definitely still think he's the best player in the world as of right now. That being said, we all make mistakes, and here he had a completely winning position but was not able to push through. Looks like he is having a hard time these days, but I mean, hey, the older you get, the harder it's going to be. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. Please give us a like, subscribe, and, well, we'll see you in the next video.